Welcome to Pittsburgh Sports Line. Thanks for watching our show. We have a great show tonight. We're missing Mike Migliore tonight. He's a little under the weather again, so if you put him in his in your prayers, hopefully he'll be back next week. We had a great show last night at Level 20 Lounge. I want to give a shout out to them. Colin and Tracy, thanks for having us there. We had 6 co-hosts, and one of the guys, Big Mike Butera, is taking my seat on the end, so he has big shoes to fill, and I think he'll be more than adequate there. And we have Smoking Jim Frazier and Chip the Prophet Hayner is still on board. So we're going to start out like we normally do, folks. I'm not going to do my infomercials first, since I'm in the hot seat here. We'll start with What's on Your Mind, Big Mike.
How you doing? Thanks for having me. Entertainment is what I want to speak about at this precise moment. Anybody see movies here? Of course, we've all been to a movie or two. Here's my question for y'all. How many Tom Cruise movies do you go to that he makes a clunker and you continue going to see the movie or him in movies? I saw him earlier on in his career, a movie called Taps, where he was kind of like a sideshow, but he's really portraying a good character, and then he started making these clunkers. So my point is, after 2 or 3 clunkers of his, I stopped going to see a Tom Cruise movie. And I'm using him as an example. It could have been, well, it couldn't be De Niro because he's awesome in everything he does. But the point is, if you make a bad product, if you're in the entertainment business, you make a bad product, you quit going, you quit buying. Now, where am I going with this? Anybody have an idea?
No, sir.
Chip, with all due respect, the prognosticator, the prophet, the whole 9 yards. There's been X amount of years of bad product, poor entertainment, that has been down to an awesome ballpark, PNC Park. Now this year, the entertainment's not too bad, but I want to put it out to you peoples. Why have you been going to see bad movies? I just don't understand. I quit going to bad movies. Why have you been going to see bad product over the years? With all due respect to the team, they're doing pretty good now. Time to go see them, but I just don't understand how you've been supporting the team in the past. I know I'm rambling, but this has kept the current management and ownership in place all these years that have been putting out Tom Cruise movies. Thank you.
Hey, Mike, welcome aboard. That was a very interesting insight. I heard a rumor that you may be an actor in some movies, so maybe that's why you brought that out to us tonight.
Well, it's hardly a rumor, machine. I'm looking at smoke and talking to you. That's hardly a rumor. That's actually a fact. I am, I'm not going to say starring, but in fact I am, in a locally produced movie that's going to be part of a series of movies that will be coming out. Now, they're not going to be seen at Lowe's because they're not going to be seen at Lowe's movie theaters, but they are going to be seen at local theaters. I'm not promoting myself. I'm Big Mike Butera. I am the male lead in these next 4 movies simply because they don't have any other guys to take the place. But please, 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 see the movies.
All right, let's move to What's on Your Mind with Smoking Jim Frazier.
Yeah, man.
And I tell you what, I haven't went to the movies in a long time. Looking forward to those 4.
My man.
But hey, I had a good friend of mine pass away recently. He went to help a guy who was went to try to rescue a guy who was jumping off a bridge, and he went over to the guy and he says, "Hey man, it can't be that bad." He says, "Man, don't jump. You know, you're ruining your life. You know, if you got problems, talk to me about your problems." And the guy, they both broke down and cried. The guy talked to him about his problems for the next 3 hours, and then they both jumped. Hey, you know, you speaking of David DeCastro, you know, I always compare David DeCastro to John Ringstra. And I always felt that it was unfair for DeCastro to be compared to Alan Faneca. Alan Faneca, in my opinion, is one of the top 3 offensive guards to have ever played college or in the NFL. You know, I thought the best college offensive lineman that I ever seen for one season was Tony Mandrich of Michigan State. The best college offensive lineman I ever seen for a career was Bill Fralick from the University of Pittsburgh. And the best offensive guard in NFL history was John Hanna from the Boston Patriots and the New England Patriots. Alan Faneca wasn't quite as good as John Hanna, but I would rate Alan Faneca either second or third all time. And that leads me to a question for you guys. What's the best way do you guys think to find or locate offensive linemen? Mike?
College.
College?
I'm not a football guy.
Okay, college. Chip?
And I would have to scout the colleges and see who's, pancaking people, which is something we don't see on the Steelers O-line.
Yeah, good point. Machine?
Here's what I would do, folks. To have any question answered about football, go to the guy that watches 4-8 hours a day of football. So you got to talk to Smoking Jim Frazier. That's who I would call up. And your fantasy picks. So all of you watching, if you need any fantasy sports picks, you have to either call me or Smoking Jim, because I'll hook you right up with him. But Smoking Jim, all kidding aside, what do you think?
Well, you guys were near correct, but here's the best way, and this is what I tell every general manager and scout in the National Football League, and no one listens. The best way to get an offensive lineman is to get an already proven commodity. The Pittsburgh Steelers did it twice. They went to Detroit Lions and got an all-pro offensive guard center, Jeff Hardings. Hardings came in here and played lights-out football for the Pittsburgh Steelers for 5 or 6 years. And then at the end of his career, they went to get Flozell, the Hotel Adams, who was all-pro for the Dallas Cowboys for many years. He came to the Pittsburgh Steelers on one leg and still was their second best offensive lineman, led them to the Super Bowl. Pittsburgh Steelers, all you have to do, your offensive line has been horrible for the last 6 years, averaging over 50 sacks a year. Every offensive lineman, free agent in the National Football League wants to play. They grow up wanting to play on the offensive line for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Do the right thing. Go after a proven commodity.
Smoke, may I ask a question here?
Yes,
I call him Smoke. He's a personal friend of mine. Are you advocating, if you're asking to bring in a proven commodity, as you said, then you have to pay for that proven commodity, which is basically draft picks? Is that how it goes?
No, if you're a free agent, a lot of these guys at the end of their career, it didn't cost them that much for Jeff Hardings. Jeff Hardings, at that point, wanted to get out of Detroit. A lot of times when you play for 8, 9, 10 years, you're not going to get the huge contract. Flozell Adams came here for the league minimum. He was in the last year of his deal. Dallas couldn't afford to pay him. He came in here for the league minimum. Plexico Burris is out here right now and scored 8 touchdowns, willing to play for the league minimum $750,000. Why isn't he on the Pittsburgh Steelers team? We can use a guy like that, 6'6" in the red zone. So there's guys out there, but you got to think outside of the box and do the right thing, especially when most NFL scouts wouldn't know Mickey Mouse from Donald Duck. So why continue to go into the draft when they've been drafting? I've been grading their draft D to D- in the last several years.
But are you saying to bring in one of these guys at the end of his career or at the peak of his career? I mean, somehow one of them trying to figure out how you.
Hey, Mike, we're going to have to interrupt you because this is like what's
What
on
are
our
you,
mind.
Claudio?
Yeah, we're gonna interrupt you. I'm not interjecting. I'm actually doing an interruption here because we'll all finish what's on our mind. You're not sure with our format. What we do is we do a little conversation on normally what we don't talk about later, but since we have one of the experts on the NFL, we talk later about the sports. But we'll get into those questions a little bit later because Smoking Jim is an expert on it, as you'll find out. Even more so, he'll answer all of your questions and maybe put you to sleep on that because you won't have any more questions.
Put me in your movie!
But
There's always a spot for you, Smoke. I sit corrected. Right on.
no problem. And now, great insights, of course, from the scout there, but we got to go to Chip Hainer here. What's on your mind?
What's on my mind? Just off the top of my head, we were having some conversations last night about some issues with baseball.
Where at?
At the Level 20 Lounge
Thank you.
over here in Bethel Park. We were having some conversations, and we're talking about players being punished for performance-enhancing drugs and everything. But the spin I'm going to put on that this evening is it's going to touch on the unions. And right now, the National Hockey League is in jeopardy of having a lockout, which is going to happen on the 15th of September if they don't agree to a new collective bargaining agreement. And then I really kind of feel that the unions are doing such a disservice to sports in general and to sports fans. You know, look what the basketball union did to the NBA. I mean, the NBA doesn't have a big draw to start with, but you know they damaged the product by losing half their season. The NHL, on the other hand, has basically been a regional sport, and us here on the show and in Pittsburgh are big hockey fans. Pittsburgh's got a very strong hockey base, but nationally it doesn't translate to ratings. And you know, right now the National Hockey League has got a contract with the NBC that's getting some national exposure, and I think if they are foolish enough to lock the players out and cancel part of the season, that they're going to do more damage to the sport than they're going to do good. And also the unions, the way they negotiate their contracts, you know, they negotiate it so that the players can't even be disciplined anymore. You know, the collective bargaining agreement with the NFL, you know, Roger Goodell has the power to, you know, administer punishments to players, and he administers punishments to players, and the players sue the commissioner because they're not happy with his punishments, but it's a collectively bargained agreement that they agreed to that now all of a sudden they want to change their mind. I think the unions are pretty much of a joke, and I think the sooner that they get them out of professional sports, the more that we can enjoy more about professional sports. But that's what's on my mind.
Normally, I don't interject on something like this, but I've been a pro-union guy most of my career.
I know.
And part of my thing is it's a pendulum. When unions are too strong, businesses may be in trouble. When businesses are too strong, then unions and workers are in trouble. When you have an economy like the U.S. has here, everybody's in trouble. But my point to the unions, a lot of these companies and also leagues use the unions to discipline and get what they want. They take care of the top 10% of the players. The rest they don't really care about. And that's who you have complaining, and they don't like the discipline. Most people, and I've helped negotiate numerous contracts into the millions of dollars.
Wow.
And people don't hold a gun to your head to sign those contracts. Those days were gone. So there is what's called a compromise. And most people don't realize that because everybody says when they sign a contract or negotiate one that they won. The company will say they won. The league says they won. The unions of the players, they say they won. Well, who really won? It was a compromise. And if they did win something, guess what they're going to do the next contract? Come back and get it all. And what I've said on the show, and you guys have heard this, if somebody's getting 60% of your revenues and you're the players, it's called the tail wagging the dog.
That's
your point, and I agree with the point in general, what you're saying, the specifics. Mm-hmm. Goodell was put in charge of all that to keep the animals under control. Okay. And that's what he's doing. Because think about it, that's what they do. And now hockey is going to be like baseball because who's the lawyer for the players' union?
Yeah, exactly. Right. But
and that's what happens.
They offered to split the profits 50-50. Now, can you think of any major corporation in the United States that has hundreds or thousands of employees and you know, I own the company, and you're going to tell me you're going to split my profits with me? You know, you're getting paid to do a job, and you're agreeing to work for the money I'm paying you.
Here, to continue,
you're not entitled to my profits.
To continue this debate, part of the numbers and the basis they figure out, a lot of these statistics aren't actually straight up profits and how they juggle their money and where they get their money. So players are at a disadvantage, except there are billions of dollars in contracts. I mean, with the numbers.
Hundreds of millions of dollars they're getting paid.
But not all of them.
They're getting the short end of the stick?
No, I don't say that. But when they do get 60%, what did I tell you before during the NBA? Wouldn't there be a compromise? Smoking Jim, wasn't there a compromise in the NBA? So they do some of that. Yeah. But I got to get back to what's on my mind.
Yes, sir.
Well, first, we have this Hug-a-thon Pittsburgh, September 6th. 2:30 to 5:30. We'll be at Katz Plaza, City County Building, and yes, under Macy's clock. There'll be hugs. Hugs are free. Donations we need for our 4 charities: Cancer Caring Centers, Sickle Cell Society, Operation Troop Appreciation, and the Pittsburgh Passion for Life Foundation, started by T. Con with the Pittsburgh Passion. So get out there and support these 4 charities. The Techno Granny started all of this stuff, so we're going to end this on September 6th. This will be our first inaugural event for Hug-a-thon Pittsburgh. We have a lot of citywide people coming in from political candidates and associates, and we have some media stars and everything. Maybe we'll get some of these media stars right here tonight. And matter of fact, it's the Prophet Hayner's birthday, September 6th.
Awesome,
Right.
I want to give a shout out for his birthday. And
Thank you.
that isn't what's on my mind. Mike Wallace is on my mind. The guy's coming back to camp, and that's all I have on my mind there, because we've got plenty of other great subjects to talk about. And we're going to start with Big Mike, since he had all these questions being new to our show. Big Mike, ask away, because Smoking Jim's ready to answer all of those questions and more.
Well, it's okay now?
Yes,
You sure?
green
Okay.
light.
Well, I got all
Action.
Smoking, how you been, pal?
Good.
The thing I was trying to get at is what you're advocating. Is it building through? It would have to be free agency at the expense of what? And to my limited knowledge of football, that's a very short lifespan of footballers, because they get beat up like crazy, right? Especially with this concussion jazz going on right now. So when you spoke about bringing in a proven vet, what point of his career are we bringing him in? At 5 years where he's peaking, or I'm trying to determine two things. One is how much does it cost, and what are you advocating when it comes to building through free agency at the expense of the farm team, which is colleges, or that basically is my question for you, if you don't mind.
Well, there's just a couple things, and we're all speculating right now because every team got different salary caps and different needs. The needs for the Pittsburgh Steelers have been and will be for the next several years based on the look of their offensive line is offensive line. So what you want to do is you want to bring in a couple seasoned veterans that are proven in this league. Denver Broncos did a great job in the years when John Elway was winning Super Bowls. New England Patriots do a good job now of keeping a solid offensive line. Then what you want to do is you want to draft some players with some potential. And then you want to bring in a coach that can develop that talent. And that's a triangle that the Pittsburgh Steelers have failed to have those kind of building blocks. But, financially, there's room. You're paying a lot of money to your receivers. You're paying a lot of money to your tight end. You're paying a great deal of money to outside linebackers, but you're not investing in offensive line. And there's a proven blueprint in the Pittsburgh Steelers when they followed that blueprint, bringing in Jeff Hardy's, bringing in Flozell Adams, it was very successful. They have not done that. The offensive line is suffering. And a guy who is your franchise quarterback who's making $100 million over his contract is Big Ben Roethlisberger. He can't continue to take those kind of hits, and he got hurt last year because of it.
Smoking, you spoke about a blueprint, and I'm a little bit older than, actually I'm a lot older than most of you guys, but the blueprint that I remember when I was actually a football fan was the draft, and that's what the Steelers did in the 70s when they had that spectacular run. I personally think the most of Mike Tomlin as a coach. I hear you about Roethlisberger's been getting whacked. I mean, as you spoke last evening, I think you mentioned he's got the most. Doesn't have the most sacks, but he's been sacked.
Well, just because you're wearing a brother hat don't mean you got to be a Tomlin fan. Hey, listen, Mike Tomlin is failing. Seriously, listen. Back in the day, listen, don't forget the Pittsburgh Steelers for 40 years never made the playoffs. What was the ingredient for the Pittsburgh Steelers to make the playoffs? Chuck Noll. Chuck Noll came in. Chuck Noll brought in a general manager by the name of Dick Haley, who had an offspring that don't have his DNA, I don't think, in Todd Haley. But Dick Haley and Chuck Noll developed that draft, and then they got a black guy in named Bill Nunn that went to the black colleges to get players that nobody's ever heard of, the John Stallworths, the Ernie Holmes, the L.C. Greenwoods. I don't know if they ever got a degree, but the Dwight Whites, but they could play ball, the Donnie Shells, and that was it. And Chuck Noll could teach them, he could develop them, and so forth. It's been watered down since then. Kevin Colbert's doing a terrible job. Kevin Colbert, don't forget, this is not his first cup of coffee. Where did Kevin Colbert come from? The Detroit Lions. Him and Matt Millen destroyed Detroit. He got off that band. He's here with the Pittsburgh Steelers. They've been doing a poor job. Mike Tomlin has yet to do anything He inherited the position from Bill Cowher, who was a great coach. This is Bill Cowher's coaching staff. This is Bill Cowher's system, and this was Bill Cowher's players. I'm predicting now the Steelers to go 8-8 only because a lot of Bill Cowher players have been retiring.
I thought you went 11-5 last night.
Well, that was
no,
me.
not me.
Jim,
Chip, what do you think?
Jim, I know how critical you are of Kevin Colbert and Mike Tomlin, but let's not lose sight of the fact that what have the Steelers done in the last 10 years? They've been competing for the Super Bowl almost every season when there's hosts of other teams that haven't even seen the playoffs. Something about the Steeler way has worked, and I think the free agency theory. Here's one thing that the Roonies are never going to get into it. They're not going to get into a bidding war for players, and somebody is always going to pay somebody more than the Steelers are willing to offer them. When the Steelers go and get a free agent, you notice that they always get him at a bargain price. They don't ever pay top dollar for any of these free agents. They're never going to be the highest bidder. And, for the last 40 years, they have built through the draft. It has been a system that works. But, building through the draft, it's a crapshoot. Everybody looks great in college because in college you've got big kids playing against smaller kids, and a guy that can dominate in college when he gets into the pros with real men finds out that these guys push back, and Mike Adams would be a perfect example of that. He was one of the biggest guys on the field when he played college ball. Now he's in the pros, and everybody that he's lining up against is bigger and stronger than him, and it's really going to fun.
Well, let me ask you this, Chip, about the Steeler way. You remember Bill Walsh with the San Francisco 49ers. Who was his heir apparent? Who was the next coach that stepped in?
Seifert.
Everybody thought Seifert was a great coach because Bill Walsh left him a dynasty, and still Seifert went to Carolina and they found out he couldn't coach. All I'm saying is this: Bill Cowher developed this team. Bill Cowher developed this system, and I tell you what, Bill Cowher brought in all the players and all the coaches, and now these players are starting to retire. They're starting to get old. So now let's see what Coach Tomlin and Kevin Colbert does this year.
But just to give the counterpoint to your thought there, and I'm not denying the fact that Bill Cowher was a great coach. I know Mike Mig is probably clenching his fists and getting ready to punch the TV set right now. But Bill Cowher, over a 15-year career, averaged 10 wins a season. I mean that's. But didn't Bill Cowher inherit a team from a Hall of Famer? What is his name? Chuck Noll. And didn't he do something that no other head coach in NFL history has done? The answer to all those questions is yes. So, the same can be said about Cowher. Cowher wasn't handed the keys to a jalopy. He was handed the keys to a pretty fine,
well, here's the only difference, machine. And I agree. And one thing I love about Bill Cowher, who's a personal friend of mine, not just a Facebook friend, is Bill Cowher.
Have you ever been out with Bill Cowher?
Plenty of times. Bill Cowher.
Can we talk
don't
off
forget,
the set
don't
about
forget that they said Bill Cowher used to run around with Cordell's sister and
and
Bennis's sister. So he loves lips, hips, and fingertips. But hey, listen. but
That'll
when
be for our other
when
show.
Bill Cowher got hired in 1992, what I loved about him, don't forget the Steelers was down, and Cowher says, we got a lot of talent on this football team. Chuck Noll still had talent. Here's the difference between Seifert, Tomlin, and Bill Cowher. And if Ken Wisenhunt and Russ Grimm would have got the job, I'd have still said it was Bill Cowher's team because they kept all the coaches and all the players. What Bill Cowher did, he came in, fired every single coach except for Dick Hope, and he brought in all his coaches and all his system. That's the difference. Mike Tomlin got hired and had to keep all the coaches, all the players in the system. Dick LeBeau ran the offense. Arians ran the offense. LeBeau ran the defense. What does Mike Tomlin do? Maybe he runs the special teams because he fired the special team coach. Wait a minute, he had an assistant special team coach. What team in the NFL has a special team coach and an assistant special team coach? But mighty Mike Tomlin.
But who taught Bill Cowher what he knew? He learned it from Marty Schottenheimer.
That's right.
And Marty Schottenheimer's.
What did he win?
Marty Schottenheimer's biggest drawback as a head coach is that he could never win the big game, and that much was true for Bill Cowher up until the year before he ended up retiring, because he'd made it to how many AFC Championship games and fell short. He made it to Super Bowl 30, and that is a game that the Steelers by all rights should have won. Neil O'Donnell, whoever paid him to hand the ball off to whatever, but Cowher had the same kind of problem. But I honestly don't think Tomlin's doing a bad job. I mean, you can't.
Well, you know what? You two better agree to disagree.
How many seasons?
One last
is he?
question. Where's Marty Schottenheimer? Where did he play high school football at?
Fort Cherry.
Fort Cherry. There you
There
go.
you go. Right with Marvin Lewis.
Yeah, I love Marty Schottenheimer. Don't forget, Fort Cherry also produced the first black player in 1933 for the Pittsburgh Steelers, Ray Kemp. And so there's a lot of things.
Here's a little fiction
But
and
here-
fact
but
from
here-
Smoking Jim's Almanac.
But here's one last fact everybody's missing. Everybody talks about Bill Cowher, who I think should be in the Hall of Fame right now today. Listen, what did Chuck Noll have when he won the Super Bowls? He had a first-round draft pick quarterback. What did Bill Cowher have when he won the Super Bowl? He finally got that quarterback and Big Ben Roethlisberger. You need that, and that was the difference.
Mm-hmm.
That was
Absolutely,
the difference. And
I
Big
agree.
Ben is still here.
Yep.
And that's why we like talking sports and Steelers football, because I think it's a combination of everything. Bill Cowher, I thought, was one of the greatest motivators, but I didn't want him managing my clock at the end. I didn't want him calling the plays at the end. I wanted somebody else to do it, because as people know, we had the horses to win a few more Super Bowls. I sincerely believe it by the talent of the other teams in the divisions and the league at the time. And many times we played not to lose. And I know you're a proactive guy, being a football guy, that you'd rather be offensive and not defensive in nature when you're on the offensive
Well,
team.
history proved that the only Super Bowl we should have gone to that we didn't go to was we should have beat San Diego. History proves Denver was better and New England Patriots was better. They were just better.
Well, I debate that point
and then
with
there's
history.
The Patriots and the Patriots and Spygate.
Yeah.
What did that have to play with it? But,
Well, that's everybody looking for an edge. We're not.
and I'll
gonna-
tell you, the year the Chargers went to the Super Bowl and got steamrolled by San Francisco,
We were
the
ready.
Steelers
We
beat
matched up
San
good.
Francisco
We
in
ma-
San Francisco that year.
We
Say
matched up
your
good for
history
them.
book, I got to throw it away, Smoking Jim.
And San Francisco one year went 15-1. Who was the only team that beat Joe
Steelers.
Montana that year?
Yeah.
Steelers.
We matched up good. I thought Rod Woodson would have matched up good against Jerry.
And that's part of the difference there when you play to win, not necessarily played it safe.
Well,
Like
isn't-
Howard did a lot of that stuff.
Isn't it called on any given Sunday, which can be Monday, which can be Thursday, but in the NFL, and it's that brings a question for you guys, Smoking, especially this is for you. How is it that the odds makers are pretty much right on consistently? What do they know that and I'm not going to say the average football fan, but I'm getting some faces down here.
Yeah, that is.
We
not,
talk about some of
that
that.
is not coincidence. I'm a conspiracy theorist.
I'm with you.
You know,
too.
and it is amazing when you watch the way scores and just sports in general play out against the line. It's a head scratcher. I got to tell you that.
But those guys know something that somehow I think they have.
Follow the money. Come on now. You know that. We're not going to get into
I'm
neighborhood.
gonna start betting when they get replacement bookies.
Now you're talking, because what happens with the referees? That's another point.
That's a good point. We're getting about a week, 10 days away from the kickoff of the NFL season. What is going to happen this season with replacement referees? It has been a comedy of errors in the preseason games. When the games actually count, I mean, what's going to happen? I mean, people are going to be in an uproar. Calls are going to be blown left and right. Teams that should win games are not going to win games, and I think they're going to make a complete farce out of the
I can't
season.
tell the difference. I can't tell the difference. Head tail.
Here's where I tell the difference. On the defensive side, there's players that are getting away with pulling uniforms off of guys, knocking them around. They're holding their arm on them. You know that. You watch hours of film. These referees, they want to get paid. So they don't want to lose the job by throwing a few flags on star players on the defensive
Well,
side.
here's the worst thing that ever happened. You know, and Mike will tell you, and Chip will tell you, and Al will tell you this. There's holding on every play. You can call
No
holding
question.
on every play. But when they took the umpire and put him behind the quarterback, you can't see the offensive lineman holding. So that's a problem. They got to move him back by the linebacker so they can see the holding. So you can't really
Because
blame
they
the
hold
referees.
inside their
Right, but I'm
shoulder
talking
pads, so you
defense.
can't see
Yeah,
them.
you
They're
get
not
them
reaching
behind
from
them.
outside.
Yeah,
They're getting them on the
behind.
inside.
Hold
of
it.
the
I'm
helmet.
talking the defensive cornerbacks and safeties right now. They're mugging some guys. Come on, you watch the film.
another
I'm
interesting-
talking there, and the referees are right next to
Yeah,
them.
there is.
I mean, really,
Here's
because they
another
don't want to lose
interesting
their
thing I want
job.
to see the first week of this NFL season. I want to see how many players end up fined and suspended for their actions on the field, because you're going to have a lot of people making judgment calls on plays that really, to be honest with you, they're not qualified to make, I don't think.
But these replacement referees, they're not picking you and I off the street. I mean, these guys have some sort of, thank you. These guys have, I don't even know what that means. These guys have
That
some
means
sort
he
of.
doesn't want to get the bacteria off of your hand. He saw
I
where you
got,
were.
I got some sanitizer. These guys have experience.
on.
They can't be night and day in terms of performance, can they?
Well,
They
and,
can't.
and to speak to your point, yes, you know they've refereed games before. They have not refereed games at NFL speed in their lives. I mean,
Where are
things happen a lot faster in the NFL on any given
sure.
Sunday. I
The
mean,
best.
they're not watching pee-wee players running around stumbling and tripping all over the place. They're watching the fastest and the best. And I mean, things happen. You know, they got to anticipate things, and they're going to be reacting more than they are trying to anticipate what's going on with the play.
And
where
don't
they-
you think that some of these referees could be intimidated by a guy who they've watched
Who's
on
6
TV?
foot 7, weighs 300
Well,
pounds? I'd
no,
be
even
intimidated.
the 5'8" safety that's saying, you know what, you're not costing me money on my
about the
stats
women?
here.
Okay, but
I'm
who-
shutting this guy down now, and don't swallow that whistle.
Okay, let's
what do you
get-
think
What about
they're
the
going to
woman?
do?
Let's get to the
What about
point.
the woman referee? She's, what's going to happen with
Sally Rand. Who are these
Aaron
people? Where
Andrews?
are they coming from? Who are these replacement? What is their experience? Where are they coming
That'll
from?
be for the next show.
Well, only thing I seen that was bad with the replacement referees, they kept tripping in Dallas over Dez Bryant's 3 security guards.
At what club? What club was that? Come on now, Smoking Jim. You know what? Let's change this up a little bit. We've run into the show.
About the Buccos.
We got to talk some Bucco talk because we got some fans of the Buccos. I'm
Yo.
still on the bandwagon. They're 8 games up. If somebody wanted to call in and give me a little information, 412-831-3304. That's how you get a hold of us. And if not, we got
Well,
Chip
you know,
right here.
tonight the Pirates are playing the second of a very important 3-game series against the Cardinals, and I felt really the Pirates really needed to sweep this series. And last night, a couple of mistakes cost them the game. AJ Burnett threw a couple of pitches that he wished he could have back that had an impact on the game. And the Pirates are also missing Neil Walker. He didn't play last night. Wasn't even at the ballpark tonight at 6 o'clock. He's got some back issues, and the Pirates have called up Chase Darno from Indianapolis. And Darno has been pretty hot lately in AAA, but he's an adequate enough fielder. But when he was up last year, he didn't carry much of a stick with him. And Neil Walker right now is the top RBI man among second basemen in the National League. And losing him offensively and defensively is going to hurt them. But that being said, the Pirates, do have the ability to still beat the Cardinals. I mean, the Cardinals have a stacked lineup. They've got the best offensive batting order in the National League. But, they can be had. We beat them 2 out of 3 in St. Louis in their home ballpark. James McDonald's on the mound tonight, and he has had some serious difficulty getting out of the first inning. But once he gets past the first inning, he's pitching as well as he did earlier in the year.
He's starting to come back a little bit, but that's only one of our problems.
But
too.
that's only one of our problems. We let go Eric Bedard today. The Pirates released him outright, and which is kind of curious. And with the expansion of the roster to 40 players in a couple of days. Who are the young arms they're going to bring up from AAA? Right. Because they've had some people that are performing very well. I think there's a young kid named Vandenberg that was at one point in July. I saw his record. He was 8-0 with like an ERA in the high 2s. But I think what the Pirates need to do is they need to put some of these young arms in and give them a chance to start now. Kevin Correa has been hot and cold. Last year he was hot the first part of the season, and then he died in the second part of the season until he blew out his arm.
Well, you're saying a key thing. The second half of the season, I heard so much talk, and I brought up in spring training, how they were training better to last the whole season. Well, I see the same semi-collapse. Look at last night. We finally had McCutchen go 2 for 4. Maybe he's going to break out of that. But our pitching has fallen so far That's part of the problem. And I think it's like when you have 4 children. You yell at one of them, or you yell at all of them because the one's out of line. I think they had to get rid of Bedard because I've been watching him. He doesn't show any emotion. Now, that's nice when you're winning and you're cool, but when you're not winning, you need some passion out there, and some of these younger players need to feed on that. They need an actual leader out there, and I know you're about a lot of that stuff. And they don't, the leadership is starting to fall. Like, look at last night with A.J. Burnett. Sure, 2 pitches that destroyed him. But the thing is, this is where they needed that toughness that he has to come through. They're not getting that from the veterans also.
Well, and if you look at the Pirates roster, I mean, other than A.J. Burnett and the catcher, what's his name? Barajas. They don't have any experienced players that have been through pennant races. Right now, the team that Clint Hurdle has put together, and I know that so some of the folks on our panel are very critical.
Talk about Mike. He's not here right now.
Of Clint Hurdle. But look what Clint Hurdle has done. Last year with a team that had no business contending, they contended for 3.5 months. For 4.5 months, they've been playing excellent baseball. They've stumbled in the last couple of weeks. I still think that they can put it together. And, who would think that on August 28th, we would be talking about the Pirates and the potential for them to make the wild card. Now, one of the things that can help the Pirates in their wild card bid is if you look at what the schedule that St. Louis is going to play. They have yet to play the Washington Nationals, which they play 7 games against the Nationals, and the Nationals
Except
have
they're
been
going to
beating up
shut
everybody.
Strasburg down shortly.
But
he's almost
that
being shut down.
They got to play 4 games in Los Angeles. They got to play 3 games in San Diego. They are going to be playing a much harder schedule. 23, I think of our next 23 games, most of them are against teams that are under 500.
I think about 16 games.
So the Pirates absolutely have a chance, and they're totally not out of this yet. They just need to get back to the basics. One of the things that have been hurting them so much lately is called third strikes. We get bases loaded, and we have watched 2 guys look at strike 3, and I've seen this happen time and time again just recently. And this is something that can be fixed. They've identified what the problems are, and it's up to the players to work their way through them. But when we get bases loaded and no outs, and instead of swinging at bad pitches out of the strike zone, they need to be putting the bat on the ball. They need to be driving it into the outfield, sacrificing runners, moving runners up, just basic baseball. Saturday night I was at the game, and the Pirates won, and there's Pedro Alvarez. He gets a double. The next guy up walks, so Alvarez is on second base, and he gets picked off second base by the catcher. Okay? Now, what was he doing? He was not paying attention. See, and we're at the time of the year where if you are not paying attention and keep an eye on the details, you're going to lose ball games, and every one of these games will mean something.
You're bringing up a great point, because part of what I was talking, some of these people were prima donnas. And when I was being so harsh, and I've been proven wrong, because Pedro's like Dave Kingman there. He can hit the home runs. No, he's no MVP, but in your book. But the point I make is, look at Tabata. He has a quad problem. Now he's running on infield hits. He's running them out. Guess why? He went to the minor leagues. I don't think he liked riding on a bus or eating the food there and not being able to be in first-class hotels. Pedro doesn't realize that anymore. He's got his money. He got the women in the stands, like smoking Jim Notice, the wives.
I thought he married that old lady that
he got rid of her. We're not talking that part, but he got sent to the minors.
I was questioning.
Just giving you an update. But that's part of the problem. I think if you show them some of that tough love of you, as you've talked about and others here, that then these players, they're going to improve, and if not, they're not worth being on your team.
Now the last Pirates regular season game is on October 1st. It's a Wednesday night, and I'll be there.
And that's the biggest fan. That's my biggest fan's
birthday.
And
I'm going to make
there.
this prediction right now, because the Pirates will be playing baseball in October, past October 1st. I believe that they're going to make the wild card, and they will be playing baseball in October.
Hold it, folks. This is
enjoy the ride.
This is Chip the Prophet Hayner. He did that with the New York Giants. If we would have only bet the house on him, we'd have won it.
No, I'm telling you, the Pirates are going to turn it around.
Mark this day down.
There's a lot of baseball left. Last year, the Red Sox were 9 games up. The Braves were 8 games up, and both those teams lost because in the last game of the season. So you know what? Anything can happen, and I think we've got the horses to win the race.
Shit, if you can see the future, tell me if my wife is ever going to like me again. That's, it's just a question.
Sometimes you got to stick your neck out, but I believe in the Buccos. I believe in what Clint Hurdle's doing, and I think at the end of the season, to be honest with you, to speak on Clint Hurdle, he needs to evaluate the team and see where we need an improvement. He also needs to evaluate his coaching staff, and I honestly feel that the batting coach, Richie, he needs to be evaluated because we're in the bottom 3 in batting in the National League, and if we're ever going to contend, we've got to be at least in the middle of the pack or the middle to the upper part of the pack. Hey, why not shoot for being the best? But hovering around near the bottom is not going to win you any championships.
Somehow he gave him the Kool-Aid for home runs this year.
If
the batting coach did that, I sort of like the home runs. I don't know about you guys, but I like the home runs.
Here's what they're missing right now. They're getting the hits now. They're not getting the clutch hits with runners in scoring position. And that's what the difference is between us winning games in June and July and us not winning games in the last 2.5 to 3 weeks. We're getting runners on base. Guys are getting hits, but they're not producing.
Well, here, I have a question for you. We get swept by St. Louis right now. I personally feel the bandwagon's broken and they can't get the wild card after they lose 2 more games to St. Louis. That's my personal belief, and I'm on the bandwagon. And you believe if they get swept,
even if they get swept, my prediction stands. I say that we'll be playing baseball.
Just trying to put you on the spot there, Chipper.
And I'm going to stick my neck out. And you know what? If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But I got this feeling.
You heard it again, folks. That's why you should call in 412-831-3304.
If I can't get you fired up about the Pirates, nobody will.
Come meet Chip Hainer personally at Level 20 Lounge. We'll be back there September 17th. So see Chip Hainer, Smoking Jim Frazier, our guest host, maybe a permanent guest host at Level 20 Lounge, Big Mike.
And
of course Al Levine, the talking machine. And I've got
tickets to 7 of the games in September because I'm going to enjoy watching a pennant race because it's been a long time, and it sure is going to be sweet.
I'll tell you what, Chip, you should be working for the Pirates as a promotional person because, as we said earlier when we were talking when we first met, your passion for the Pirates is off the charts. I love it. I wish that I had it, such as you do, because I had it at one time. I need your Kool-Aid, pal.
Yeah, well, he
won't bring any out for me. He gave me a sip.
The team has been here since 1887. And, Pittsburgh has always been a baseball town, and Pittsburgh's always going to love its Pirates. And you know what? It's taken a long time to turn this ship around, and they've started developing a farm system which is going to produce results in the next year or two. You're going to see some players coming up, and we're not going to have to be spending all that money in free agency because we're going to, grow the talent from our farm system, which was completely
going to this playoffs, right?
Right. Pretty much.
But
for years we didn't even have one major league caliber prospect in our entire farm system. And why did they spend all the?
Where are the hitters?
Well,
that's one thing we still don't have. We don't have the hitters. We got some fielders.
Well,
we had Marte, the Partey guy, come up, but he got hurt.
Well,
that was one of our hopes there that he'd come out and he looks great.
He's gone already.
He pulled an oblique muscle. He's on a 15-day deal.
What is an oblique muscle?
And
if
you're batting, you twist when you bat. You can't swing a bat if you pulled your oblique.
At this advanced age like us, Big Mike, we don't worry oblique.
Yeah.
Okay.
Awesome.
We worry obese.
That's why they call me Big Mike.
Wow. Some would say that. We've heard other rumors, but we're not going there first.
See my movie.
Okay, there we go. Hey, to change gears a little bit, we were talking Penguins and Unions and NHL, and you know how I feel about it. I think it's going to be similar to the NBA season that we had last year. There are 82 games. It's too long. They'll do a 60-game season. They'll start training camp October, November. Maybe they'll start playing in January. I think it'll be similar. They'll cut a compromise deal on what they pay out of the profits, and will the owners get the larger portion? Chip, I'm going to tell you right now, a bold prediction, no.
They're going to cut off their nose to spite their face.
They don't
It would
care.
be the biggest mistake for the NHL. 2004, they threw away a whole season And supposedly they fixed everything that was wrong with
They lied. Chip, they lied.
Well, but the worst
Surprise.
thing that they can do right now is put that sport on ice. You've
Whoa.
got your
Whoa, hey, pun intended?
Yes.
I like that.
A great
the
sports
Los Angeles
metaphor.
Kings won the Stanley Cup last year. That's the second biggest television market in the United States. And if you want to get any exposure, you got to go to these
Chip,
big markets, and you've got to draw people. And you're not going to do it if you shut off the season.
You know, the NHL, they have still the Canadian mentality. It's a small sport, and they don't care about anybody else. The players, it's all a me society. They're not our role models. We talk about this on the show all the time. So this is what's going to happen. You don't want to face it, but when is training camp supposed to start? September. It's not happening.
Well, hey, I got a question. You're the Union guy, and you seem to be the Pirate and the Penguin guy, and we're the good-looking guys down at this end. Hey, come on, tell me.
You're the hat guys. Good looking is wherever good looking is. You two are the hat men.
The question is, and this is like directed toward all union negotiations, be it a school, be it a sport, whatever. Why do we wait till the 11th hour to get to this thing when in fact we knew from like 2004
All right,
or whatever?
Here's what you have to do. Do you know can you spell lawyers?
No, I certainly can't.
Okay. Can you spell attorney?
Absolutely.
Okay. Well, you can spell attorney. Think about it. When you put lawyers, attorneys, businessmen in here, it changed the whole dichotomy of how you negotiate.
Don't use big words,
Wow,
but
for real?
yeah, exactly.
It's
still
a two-pronged attack.
but
Here's
it's-
what happens. If you give up a deal too early, what does the other side? It's like buying a car. If you go in there and you say, I'd like to get a $20,000 car for $12,000, are you going to get that? No. If you say, I'd like that $20,000 car for $19,999, you bought it. So did you buy too early or too late? It's human nature.
Yeah, but if you go to the Consol Center where the Penguins play, and you're expecting a Tom Cruise movie, and you got a blank screen, or as Chip eloquently put it,
No ice.
it's on ice. I mean, come on, this is entertainment to a degree.
Have you ever negotiated anything here, Big Mike?
I told you I'm married.
How'd that work out for you?
I'm on a sports show, and
And what night of the week is this?
I hope it'll be.
But I
every-
think that part of it is you can't cut a deal too soon, and when you take it to that
and I
end.
think that that's a bunch of BS because I don't think anybody benefits from work stoppages. I think
on.
everybody loses.
I'll agree.
I mean, the owners lose, the players lose, and more importantly, the fans. And aren't the fans the ones that pay the owners and pay the players? So they need to
Chip.
find a way. They need to find. There's a big enough piece of pie out there that they can find a way of splitting it up equitably and make everybody happy. I just think
Here,
it's
what's the
crap that
percentage
they
in
go like
hockey
this.
that you were telling me the players get?
I think they just
You know it. I
they
think you
just got
said
a
it.
new offer
Yeah.
today, which was supposed to be significant, and they're reading through it because they're going to find out what all the loopholes are.
Well, exactly.
But they were looking to split the profits with them 50-50. And
No, but I mean, what
the players
percentage are they getting
the players
now?
got up and walked out.
Well, here is the percentage close to 58, 59%. So if they go to 53, 54%, everybody will walk away happy and will go to the deadline or beyond it. The NBA just proved it to you. Look at the arguments we had on the show when I said they'll compromise. I got in arguments with Magic Mike a little bit, and I don't mind people being anti-union because they've lost their significance because of
Hockey's already
leadership.
proven they'll sit out a whole year.
Yeah,
so
but how much money did the NBA
It cost them millions.
lose? And you remember back in 1994 when the only year that a Cleveland team had a chance of winning a championship,
Right.
the Indians were the best team in baseball that
they
year,
were.
and they canceled the World Series. It took. Mark McGuire and Sammy Sosa juicing themselves out of their minds in 1998 and having
Are
that
you
home run
serious?
derby before the fans came back to
know that.
baseball.
No way.
Good point.
But I mean, you do
But
more
Chip,
damage.
does common sense ever come into play in sports?
Well, that's one thing that is.
Okay,
that
you
is-
know the
common
answer.
sense is not very common.
Okay, and that's part of why we debate this. We agree to disagree on this stuff. Whether unions are good or bad, I don't really know, but I'll tell you this much. A strike doesn't help anybody. And
No.
I'm on the record of that. I've been involved in strikes, work stoppages.
Everybody
you
loses.
name it. That'll be in my book and movie that Mike can star as me if he shaves that goatee a little bit. Because I'm getting as gray as he is right now, so I appreciate it.
Can I give you guys a fantasy football tip?
You know what? This is our fantasy football tip, 10-minute with Smoking Jim Frazier.
Write this
Well,
down, ladies
I'm only
and
going
gentlemen.
to take a few seconds, but on draft day, I told you guys, I text you, and
Yes.
Pittsburgh Steelers asked me to draft or give them some some players that they can draft to return kicks because the Steelers did not want Antonio Brown returning kicks this year. And the guy that I targeted for the Pittsburgh Steelers was an unknown from Florida International by the name of T.Y. Hilton.
You did text me.
And the Indianapolis Colts backstabbed me in the 5th round by taking T.Y. Hilton in the 5th round. Indianapolis Colts announced today that T.Y. Hilton is not only their kickoff and punt return man, he's their starting wide receiver, number 13. Caught 2 touchdown passes in the last exhibition game, killing it. So T.Y. Hilton, who was my guy, I was pushing for the Pittsburgh Steelers to return punt and kickoffs. Now he's going to be a star in the National Football League. Oliver, Andrew Luck, Chuck and Duck Luck, Dink and Dink. Throw the bubble screen to T.Y. Hilton, and he'll turn into a punt returner and do some great things for you in fantasy football.
Speaking about
And that's
Andrew,
a great tip. We need a few more of those. We're going to have a fantasy football corner here for you.
Speaking of Andrew Luck and RG3, the 2 biggest names that were taken in the draft, I think they're going to be major disappointments this year as starting quarterbacks in the NFL. I think the kid that really is going to end up probably being the better quarterback this year in the draft is Ryan Tannehill, who's going to be starting in Miami. I think there's just, these kids are going to get way in over their head, and they're going to find out what it's like to, because they've never played against the type of animals that are going to be coming after them. And you know how defensive linemen and outside linebackers go after rookie quarterbacks.
Well, my number 1 rated quarterback in this draft was not Luck, and it was not RG3, who I'm comparing to Cordell Stewart. My number 1 rated quarterback was Russell Wilson.
And where's he starting at?
Russell Wilson is the starting quarterback for Seattle Seahawks. I got to take my hat off. They got a free agent, Matt Flynn. He beat him out clearly in practice and on the field. So good luck to Russell Wilson this year. And as far as Tannehill, I like Tannehill. Tannehill kind of reminds me of Big Ben. He can move. He's athletic. Don't forget, for 2 years at Texas A&M, he was the wide receiver. And Jared Johnson, the 6'6" quarterback, who's the Steelers' 4th-string quarterback right now, was the starting quarterback for Texas A&M. So Tannehill is a great athlete. The only thing hurting him is they don't have any wide receivers. Chad Johnson headbutted his way out of the league. They don't have any wide receivers. And I'm not a fan of Philbin as a coach. Philbin played 1 year college football. Where did Philbin play college football at? 1 year, Washington and Jefferson. They beat the snot out of him, and he quit after 1 season.
Well, one of the things that I'm kind of encouraged to see this year is that we're going to see no Chad Johnson and no Terrell Owens. I mean, I'm going to be so glad that these 2 prima donnas are off the TV mugging all year. Let them go back to reality TV, because they were failures at that. They may have been great football players, but you know what? Their circus act, it has no place in the football. Let me ask you this, Chip.
Let me ask you guys, how are those guys broke? They both made $100 million in their career, and they're both bankrupt.
It's real simple. They made $100 million, and they spent $101. Okay, it's simple math. If they would have got their degree, they would have figured that out on their own.
Hold it. Do any of them go to clubs or anything, smoking Jim?
I don't know what happens, man.
I think they hit some clubs there.
And I know, and I can't believe that Terrell Owens walked away from that $500 a week paycheck he was getting from the Wrangler, the Allen Wranglers. Yeah, and he had to give up part of ownership of the team. That was a pretty sweet deal. He shouldn't have screwed that up either. But maybe then he may make his child support payments.
Can I give you guys my last? What was my stone cold lead pipe lock of last week? Anybody remember?
I forget.
The WPIL ruled Keystone Oaks,
yeah.
Ricky Rogers ineligible. I said the PIAA would do what? They ruled him eligible. So he's going to play football.
Well, hold it, folks.
Can't play basketball.
Right.
But he can play football this year.
But here's the thing. Smoking Jim put all his weight and muscle behind this. He gave the announcement that once he gets in there backing something, like he backed Terry Smith on this. So I just want to see the tape and video of that conference there.
So you're saying Terry Smith is going to go out with a bang this year?
Oh, man, I tell you what, the PIAA punished him. They said no basketball, but you can play football. We think you transferred for basketball intent. PIAA never ruled against Gateway yet.
Insider trading.
See the things you learned, Big Mike, here?
This is awesome.
Definitely. We got a lot of insights here.
I don't mean to bring this back to a serious discussion, certainly not me, but what I want to do is show my knowledge. Chipper, Smoke, you guys were talking about rookie quarterbacks in the NFL. Now, if my memory serves me, which is, there's only been one rookie quarterback that I can remember forever and a day that was ever successful in the NFL, and that's your man.
Dan Marino?
No, Ben Roethlisberger.
Oh, yeah.
Jeez, man, I thought this was the expert or something.
Oh, my fault. Yeah, 15-1.
He's a Pittsburgh guy. Just remember.
Danny Marino. Well,
Yeah,
he's a
he's
Central
always-
Catholic guy, if you guys noticed my shirt last night.
No, were you
Yeah.
wearing a
Shout out
Cent-
to Central Catholic.
And Andy Sebastian, too, was on our second show. We're going to have to get Andy back here. Maybe he could come out the Level 20 Lounge. We'll have to make an announcement, get him and Big Mike talking Central Catholic and the alumni.
Absolutely. But as a matter of fact,
Overboard. So.
Well,
my graduating class, 1966, we're having a picnic this Saturday out at Roosevelt Grove in North Park. And I'm not going to say everyone's welcome because it's mostly the 66ers. That's what we call ourselves.
how about Danny Marino? Can he come?
Danny, if you're out there and if you're listening, stop by. I'll autograph a football for you. Getting back to
Now
this-
get serious.
Yeah, I want to get serious.
Wood-fired pizzas.
Oh, it's great pizza, man. It's
Hey,
a
let's
good
get
joint.
serious here. We'll talk that later.
This
Maybe they can sponsor this show.
that's an awesome idea.
See if you can get them to get free pizzas for us.
Done deal. You're talking to me. You know what I mean? This skill position for quarterbacks. I don't know. When does a rookie's not going to make it? You were talking about RG3. I think that's Griffin is his name for
Yeah.
Washington. And you don't think he's going to cut it? Well, again, the only guy I know in recent history, besides Danny, Central Catholic boy, is Ben Roethlisberger. These guys don't cut it. They don't
Well,
make it.
you know, last year Cam Newton, and I was not a very big Cam Newton fan, and last year Cam Newton came out and made quite an impression. And as the year went on and he got closer to the end of the season, he was getting better. And, you know, it'll be interesting to see what Carolina does, you know, and part of that problem is you like when Vic went away to jail, you know. He came back the first year, and he was lighting things up. All of a sudden, they got tape on him, and what were defenses doing to him last year? They shut down everything that he was good on. You know, Cam Newton last year, nobody had any tape on him. Now they're gonna see what he's strong at, and if there's anything that defensive coordinators love to live for, it's picking off somebody successful. You know, so it'll be interesting to see how he plans out in the second year because. You know, I mean, he made such an improvement in the first, but, you know, defenses usually figure it out pretty quick.
Well, probably the first Steeler quarterback, not statistically because he's been surpassed probably, but probably everyone that a Steeler fan is well associated with is Terry Bradshaw. And I dig that guy to death, especially now because I'm seeing a guy that I didn't see while he was playing ball. You know, sense of humor, blah, 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 although he had it back then. But if I recall, his rookie season, and he was thrust into there, bada bing, bada boom, you got to play. He was 6-28, 6 TDs, 28 receptions,
right.
And he's a Hall of Famer.
I'll
Because
tell you something, when he
built
was winning
character for
Super
him.
Bowls, he was getting booed on a regular basis.
oh,
Joe
it's
Gillen
terrible.
beat him out.
Terry Bradshaw won 4 Super Bowls with the Steelers. I think 2 of those times he was an MVP.
Yes, sir.
Right.
He ended up, I think his career stats were 258 and 258, which a lot of either picks and or TDs, but he's a Hall of Famer.
Mike,
sorry,
we're
Al.
going to have to end this show. It's been a pleasure having Big Mike Butera, Smoking Jim Frazier with
man.
NFL scouting and fantasy picks. The prophet Chip Hayner made his bold prediction.
We will be playing baseball past October 1st in Pittsburgh.
And I'm Al Levine, the talking machine.
Big Al.
You're welcome back to our show anytime. See us September 17th. Level 20 Lounge, they got specials on beer. I don't know if you can say that on public access TV. $7 burgers. Come on out, check out the show, and watch us next week. We'll be here right after Labor Day for our show on Tuesday night. Thank you.
Good night, everybody.
Once you figure out how to speak your kids' language, well, you don't really have to say much at all. From the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints.